Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Daniel here with another video looking at the war in the region. Today I am on the banks of the River Tyne. If I just spin around, behind me you can see what was formerly the Vickers Armstrong Works at Scotswood. It was constructed during the Second World War to relieve pressure on the Elswick Works. It built a number of items during the course of the war, including 5.25 inch dual purpose guns. Up until the early 2000s it was still in use by BAE Systems, constructing items for the British Ministry of Defence, including Challenger 2 tanks. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. As I mentioned, I'm on the banks of the River Tyne, and we are looking at the connection of this river to the events in May 1941 surrounding the hunt for and the sinking of the German battleship Bismarck. The primary connection of the River Tyne to the events of May 1941 concerning the sinking of the Bismarck come in the form of the ships which were constructed along the banks of the river. So the first ship I would like to discuss is HMS King George V, which was the flagship of the British Home Fleet, the flagship of Admiral John Torvey. So King George V was the lead ship in her class. She was one of ultimately 5 King George V class battleships mounting 10 14-inch guns. She was laid down at the Vickers Armstrong Works at High Walker on the 1st of January 1937 and was launched by King George VI on the 21st of February 1939. The ship was fitted out along the banks of the Tyne until mid-1940, when it was decided that it would be better to move the ship to Rosyth owing to the threat of bombing by the Luftwaffe. So it was in October that the ship made her way down the Tyne to Tynemouth, where she met an escort of destroyers and proceeded up north to Rosyth on the 4th, where she was fitted out before proceeding to Scapa Flow, where in early 1941 she became fleet flagship. At 0847 on the 27th of May 1941, HMS Rodney, 16-inch gun battleship which had been constructed in the 1920s, opened fire against the Bismarck. And when Rodney opened fire, it was the beginning of what would prove to be Bismarck's final battle. Approximately 1 minute later, King George V joined in the fray, opening fire, during which time she fired approximately 400 14-inch shells along with 700 5.25-inch shells. So the battle continued until around 10:30 when Torvey decided to break off the engagement. By that point Bismarck was a smouldering wreck. She'd been pounded into submission. She wasn't really a threat to anyone. At that point Torvey issued the order for any ships with torpedoes to use them against Bismarck. Famously Dorsetshire responded to that, fired 2 torpedoes on the port side, followed by 2 at starboard, and then at approximately 10:36 Bismarck keeled over and sank. Another ship which played a role in the events of hunting the Bismarck was HMS Victorious. So Victorious was an illustrious class aircraft carrier. She was ordered under the 1936 naval programme. She was laid down at the Vickers Armstrong Yard in Walker on the 4th of May 1937 and was launched on the 14th of September 1939. So she was constructed at the same time as King George V was fitting out the Walker Naval Yard. So her commissioning was delayed until 1941 due to the greater need for escort vessels for service during the Battle of the Atlantic. In April 1941 she commenced sea trials off Rosyth and then at Scapa Flow, and she was commissioned on the 14th of May, and then on the 20th of May embarked her air group. So just before sailing to intercept Bismarck, Torvey held a conference aboard King George V in which he questions whether or not Victorious was ready to put to sea should the need arise. The Victorious's commanding officer, along with the commanders of her air group, all answered in the affirmative and said that she was, and that she'd be a valuable asset. At which point Tovey sort of agreed to take the carrier along, because having an aircraft carrier with even limited capabilities was better than having none at all. Indeed, her air group had only actually arrived on board sort of that day and commenced landings and air operations that day. So Victorious didn't play a major role in the famous engagements such as the Battle of the Denmark Strait or ultimately in the final battle. What Victorious did was during the course of the 24th of May, she was dispatched by Tovey to sail independently with a number of cruisers to close the range to Bismarck, which at the time was being shadowed by HMS Prince of Wales, the Norfolk and Suffolk. She was to launch an airstrike. So it was around 10 o'clock on the evening of the 24th of May that her Swordfish were launched, and they located the Bismarck sometime shortly after midnight on the 25th of May. The airstrike wasn't the most successful in the world, however it did meet with some success in the form of one torpedo struck Bismarck. It struck her amidships where it exploded against the belt armour, but the force of the explosion and the detonation, it caused the first fatality aboard Bismarck, when one of the seamen was thrown against the bulkhead and killed. So another ship which was constructed on the banks of the Tyne was the destroyer HMS Cossack. So HMS Cossack was a tribal class destroyer under the command of Captain Philip Fan. So Philip Fan and Cossack had famously boarded the Altmark in Norwegian waters, freeing British servicemen who'd been captured by the surface raider Admiral Graf Spee and had been put aboard Altmark for return to Germany, where they were to be interned. So Cossack was the lead destroyer of Van's group, which had been removed from convoy WS-8B and told to rendezvous with Tovey in order to provide an escort to HMS King George V and to Rodney, as their destroyers were running low on fuel. Indeed, King George V's destroyers had already been dispatched to refuel. So during the night of the 26th and 27th of May, Cossack, along with other destroyers, launched a destroyer attack, launching a number of torpedoes, and it really sort of harried the German crew, prevented them from getting any sleep, and meant that by the morning of the 27th of May they were very weary, tired and not in a fit state in order to do battle. Like HMS King George V and Victorious, Cossack was constructed by Vickers Armstrong. Finally, there was HMS Dorsetshire, which, as previously mentioned, launched the final torpedoes against Bismarck, after which she keeled over and sank. So Dorsetshire was one of the vessels which remained on the scene as the battleships peeled away and began to pull members of Bismarck's crew from the icy waters of the North Atlantic. So Dorsetshire ultimately pulled 85 members of Bismarck's crew to safety, the most senior of whom was Baron Mullenheim von Reichberg, the 4th gunnery officer and the most senior survivor. So following the reports that there was a U-boat in the area, Dorsetshire, along with the destroyer Maori, which had also remained behind to pick up survivors, broke off the rescue efforts and began to get underway. So Dorsetshire met up with the rest of the fleet heading north. She rounded the top of Scotland and then actually came to the River Tyne, where the survivors from Bismarck were disembarked and then interned first in Britain and then sent abroad, where they were interned in prisoner of war camps for the remainder of the war. So I hope you found this video interesting. It was a quick canter through the connections of the River Tyne to the hunt for and sinking of the Bismarck. You could say that some of the connections were loose, but at the same time the role played by the river was instrumental. It was sort of an unseen role in the form of it was primarily ship construction. But I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, then it'd be great if you could hit a like. Also, if you hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.